What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with coaches Skip Hill, Andrew Barry, myself, Scott McNally, and we are brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK for additional savings on high-quality, third-party tested supplements. You can get your creatine, your intra-workout, and the Team Skip blend. We're also brought to you by supplementsource.ca for Canadians. They have great deals that change week to week, and we are brought to you by you. We've got some Patreon questions. We will tackle them today. Guys, I'm going to start out with a controversial post that I saw in the Think Big group at Facebook. By the way, Facebook is no longer, nobody goes there, but we do have a group. It's the one redeeming place that you can go on Facebook is to groups. Join us over there.
It drives me nuts when you say that.
You know, it's true,
it's
though.
It's still a good platform. It's better. Well, it has fallen off, but it's better for the older demographic.
I'm sorry.
Right? I mean, it's better for the like articles and stuff. I post my articles there, and they get a lot of.
Do they get a good track? They get good traction there. I stopped posting.
They do just so I imagine the older demographic.
Yeah,
I imagine that Skip sits down to a tall glass of prune juice and puts on his spectacles, and he starts. He's like, Facebook.com.
he boots up the modem. HTTP.
Yeah, exactly.
The AOL sound goes on. My modem's connected.
Exactly.
He tells his kids he can't use the phone between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock on Wednesday.
I'm doing my articles. I'm doing my articles.
You got mail.
Damn.
So basically, everything the monsters have done to become monsters that weren't genetic freaks is wrong now. Don't eat in a surplus. Don't take a lot of testosterone because the AIs are poison. Don't train to failure. And God help if you add in intensifiers. Don't do too much volume because you're fragile, and fatigue and calcium ion goblins will come to steal all of your muscle. Just a statement in the group. Very strong, polarizing statement.
I do get his point because I do think in some ways we have information overload. And like, if you don't know that you have X, Y, and Z going on, is that going to, like, if a tree falls in wood and no one's there to hear it, did it really make a sound, So I guess it's kind of like now we're so educated, and the problem is clients are more educated. And I use that in like they're educated because they hear like, oh, like if I didn't sleep well for one night, does that mean I have like adrenal fatigue and that I need to take a month off from training? Like, I get what he's saying, and that there's a supplement for everything, that there's a protocol for everything. Like, if you have bad digestion one day, like, do we need to start a GI map and run through a whole list of allergies? And so I get what he's saying, but I do think there's a happy medium there. I don't think it's an all or nothing type of thing. We have great information, we have great tools to use, and we can use them effectively. But at the end of the day, hard work is still going to be your driver of success.
I've got a follow-up question.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. It's a middle ground. There's like you said, a happy medium.
Yeah.
Years and years of just pound and bang away, and don't pay attention to the minutia, don't consider it a nuanced endeavor. So I'm not surprised to see it swing to this. The only argument I would have is this. I could argue that there are, and you guys tell me if you agree or not, maybe you don't, that there are more people making progress not training balls out than there are people training balls out making progress. If I was a newbie, that's what I would notice.
Yeah, but more people are taking PEDs across the board.
True.
Yeah.
Like, remember back in the day, 20 years ago, it was just the competition bodybuilders that were using PEDs. Now it's like every female athlete is using PEDs. Female athletes' moms are using PEDs because they heard Anavar works. They're using Clen. They're using GLPs. They're using all, you know what I mean? So I do think it's because of the compounds that people are seeing more results without having to train as hard. But I think when you find someone that matches hard training, hard eating, and hard gear, you're going to see a freak.
I have a follow-up question.
All right. Fair
enough.
Got a
follow-up question. So, there is some level of truth to some of the stuff he's saying discrediting to a degree, like we've learned that, like you said, Skip, there are more people that are getting into great shape and building great physiques that aren't pushing as hard as like everybody did across the board in the past. What I wanted to ask you guys is, how do you know how many sets you should take to like completely gassed out on the tank, like empty the tank sets? How many sets should the average person be doing? How do they figure that out? I wanted to give them, I guess, a piece of take home here. If they're training now, maybe they are emptying the tank on everything, or maybe they're the opposite and they're like, I'm reading everything online and I'm not emptying the tank on anything because I never should. How do we figure out that middle ground?
I have a cue, but it's a in the moment cue, like during your workout, and it's a time where if I notice this, I'm done. Like done with that muscle group. Even if I was like, I had another exercise that I was going to do 2 more sets for. And that is this. And it's difficult to explain. It's just that I've been training for so long that when I feel it, I know. And a lot of people are thinking, he's going to say the pump. No, it's not the pump. I think a lot of people go with the pump and they say, I'm starting to lose a pump, so I'm done. I did an extra exercise. I got a little bit better pump, so that was good. I don't gauge things that way. I did in my younger years because the pump is right there in your face, and you just naturally assume that is a marker, or that is a way to gauge or assess, whether you need to do more work or not. Mine is contractile force. If I'm training chest or back, could be anything, I guess, but training chest or back, and I realize that I have lost a significant amount or I'm losing contractile force. I can't contract that muscle, and it doesn't feel hard when I literally squeeze my chest together, then I'm done. I think that you're going to get the most efficient and optimal sets while you still have that ability to contract that muscle hard. And once you don't, and you start to lose that, every set after that becomes, I don't want to say junk, but you start to dig a hole. And that hole, you're kind of digging a hole for recovery. So if you're relying on the pump, you can still ride the pump. But what are those sets really doing for you? A better way, or another way to do it, is if you say, well, what is contractile force? I'm not sure what that. If I finish up, I did this the other day. I finished up chest with slight decline flies. And on the first set, I realized I don't even feel the muscle. I can feel it, but I don't not only feel it contracting, but it's not even burning anymore. Like there is really not much going on there other than it's just moving. I'm moving the weight. So that's when I dumped not only my last exercise, but the last set of those decline flies, because I just realized I'm like, anything more right now is just, it's a waste. It's extra expenditure that is going to start to dig that hole for recovery.
I'll go with that. I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. In terms of number, I think I've always found that like 3 really hard sets in a workout is usually a general good rule across 4 or 5 exercises, and across maybe 10 different sets that you're doing. 3 really hard ball busting sets, I think, is kind of where you go to A, maximally stimulate, but B, also like you're saying, Skip, not dig yourself into a hole for the next workout or for your overall program. So yeah, something like that.
Would you agree though that it depends on the actual exercise? Because as an example, and I wonder if you guys deal with this, if I go all out on flat dumbbell presses, by the time I get those weights into, the dumbbells into place, and I've unloaded them or dropped them or whatever, and then re-racked them and then unracked the next one, it's a pretty laborious task versus, dumbbell flies or or even like an incline
selectorized machine,
hammer strength. Yeah, exactly. It's day and night. So and Coach, you guys say his name, Kassem? Is that how you say his? I don't want to pronounce it incorrectly. But he touched on something like this a couple months ago, and I thought, oh God, I completely agree with that. And that is that the exercise, some exercises have so much more of a fatigue factor based on the fact that they are complex or compound exercises, even arguably like deads and bent over rows. I mean, bent over rows versus a long pulley row, even, things like that. I think those things need to be taken into consideration, because the impact that some exercises have on your CNS from strictly a fatigue factor can be 3 times what another exercise may be.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, think about, let's say you're training back and you're doing either rows or deadlifts versus doing cable rows or some other, another back exercise. Just bending over and moving that barbell, rolling it onto another plate, and then so you can slide another plate on and then pull it back off. Like, that costs energy. And when you get to 4 or 5 plates on that, like, that does get physically demanding. That is a pain in the ass. And so I do agree with you about the exercise you're doing, 100%. Yeah.
All right. Androgen receptor 1 ask us, and by the way, guys, you're welcome to comment in the live stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're welcome to comment, and we will tackle your questions on the next show. And if you are new here, let me encourage you to subscribe, ring the bell, all that. Plus, guys, it comments, likes, all those things. They help us out a ton. If you haven't hit the like button, you enjoy our show, then please do. He says he's in Windsor, Ontario, literally just south of me. He says, hey guys, from Windsor, Ontario, do you guys get any anxiety from EQ? If so, does it have to do with the crushed E2?
I don't get anxiety.
I don't, but
gear.
Yeah, I feel great.
I do.
All PEDs make me feel almost awesome.
Yeah, I do on Clen. It took me years to figure out. Oh, okay. I am not only wired, I am very anxious. Like, I'm supposed to be doing something. Like, did I miss that? It's just a very, very my brain is moving very, very quickly. But no gear. I've never noticed it. And I've done gear for a long, long time.
Yeah. I don't think it has anything to do with
my day.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the estrogen.
What's that?
I was just saying, I've taken a couple shots in my day too.
Yeah, a few in there.
No, you don't think it would have to do with the estrogen, though, Scott?
From what I understand, there's some relationship to GABA relating to EQ, and people get anxiety as a result of that. So I would think that any kind of, my first thought with that would be it would be related to that more than related to estrogen. For sure, I think you could get all sorts of mental issues with low or high estrogen, but it wouldn't be my first thought where like EQ is notorious for anxiety in some people simply because of estrogen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but low E2 can definitely contribute to higher anxiety levels. So if the EQ is causing that much of a low, an estrogen lowering effect, I mean, that could be the reason. And I know the GABA receptor as well. That is definitely a factor. I mean, it could be all both.
For sure contributing, but my thought would be like, then wouldn't Primo be equally as associated? You know what I mean? Since it also would lower estrogen as well.
Not if it doesn't lower his estrogen as much as EQ does, though. So what I guess the thing to do would be running a little experiment of let's say like a 500 of test and EQ for 8 weeks, and then like a 500 say test and Primo, just to round out some even numbers, and then gauge go get your labs done and check your E2, and then also take a some type of anxiety survey. I'm sure they exist online, like questionnaire type thing, and then give truthful answers, and then compare the scores.
Or I bet if we step back,
what I'm saying is,
I was just say if we step back, I bet you probably we wouldn't even tell him to use it then. You know what I mean? Like if you're like a client's hey, you know what I mean? If he's like, hey, I got anxiety, you'd be like, let's just not use that drug then. There's 100 other ones we can pick from.
That's the right answer.
But for us and for science, do it for science.
That's right.
I mean, even if it's imaginary, right? Even if he's just read somewhere that increases anxiety and now he's caused a placebo effect, just get rid of the drug. There's so many other drugs you can use that are going to produce benefits.
Have you talked
and if you still have the same anxiety, then you have to look at something else because it had nothing to do with the EQ. I think sometimes the reason exactly. I'm not picking on him. What I'm saying is sometimes things can be correlative when we think they're causative, but there's a myriad of variables that could play into it. Maybe your anxiety levels are up for some other reason, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the EQ. Let me ask you guys a question. Why then, if, and I don't disagree, but if low estrogen impacts GABA levels and I can literally shit tank my estrogen, why do I not? What is going on chemically?
It's
that
not
I
the
don't
estrogen.
have that
It's the EQ.
It's the EQ.
Yeah, not the estrogen.
Okay, in this particular, but you just said.
But what he's saying is,
if
though,
you have low.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's the science, and then there's the actuality of like individuality. So
yeah,
like it's just not something that affects you. You know what I mean? And
okay, I just didn't know if there was a reason, like you said. Oh well. Okay.
I think we have a leg.
I'm not making blanket statements about anything.
Explain that away.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have a leg.
Yeah, I think I'm lagged for some reason.
Just hang up. Call us back. Let's see if that does it.
Yep.
Andrew's hardwired and everything.
I know. So am I.
You look good. You look clean.
But I did notice it. Yeah. Nice. I have a new camera. It's 4K.
Nice.
They said that the new Razer Kaio is, because it's 4K, is literally up there with DSLR. And I noticed it as soon as I started using it. I was like, this is pretty damn good.
Nice. Cool. We're back. Everything look good? Sound good, Andrew?
Yep.
All right. You've got your experiences now with SLU. You've got a bunch of people that have been running it, as do I, and I've seen this once in a great while. Somebody says they haven't noticed any effects, but he does have more to say though. Dom, he says,
what's his dose?
He says, I'm just a week in, so not that far into SLU at 250 a day. I don't, quote, feel any effects from it. However, I have been cutting for about 4 weeks now. I'm down 2 pounds per week on average. Do you all notice any effects from that dose? I don't. I would say I noticed something from it, but I consider myself probably an outlier because most people probably don't have the like mitochondrial damage that I've had. So I wouldn't expect everybody to. And you sounded like you're going no, Andrew, on that dose.
Honestly, I think at 250 mics a day, that's like, I don't even start females out that low. So I think he needs to bump the dose up a little bit. You know, I would start him at 500 probably and see where he goes from there. But, you know, yeah, I would double it. Go big or go home. And the thing, so I just did a paper on this for Mountain Dog Diet about SLU. And yeah, no, it's not like a Scott Stevenson paper. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There are a couple references in there, so I feel like I'm somewhat academic. But so there's SLU 332, and now they found SLU PP 991, which is an even stronger estrogen receptor activator. So, and in the research, you know, the cool stuff I'm finding is that. So someone sent me a message the other day. So this is anecdotal, but it confirms the research I'm reading about it being kidney protective.
Yeah.
One of my buddy's clients added in 2 milligrams of SLU for, I want to say he ran it for 8 weeks. And at the start of that 8 weeks, his EGFR was 35. So pretty low, right?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
At the end of the 8 weeks, he got his labs done again, and it was up to 75. Okay?
No kidding.
And he continued, all other variables staying the same. So, and it shows in research that it helps protect the glomerulus, helps help regenerate some of the tissue. It also has cardioprotective effects with decreasing some of the heart growth that we see from, you know, just weight training in general, being an athlete. Yeah. So there's a lot of other implications than just the bodybuilding stuff that we're interested in. But I think this compound is going to be pumped more than the GLP-1s, more than, you know, tirzepatide, retatrutide. I think it's going to be the next thing that hits the medical market in the next year or so, because and getting back to the dosing, he's taking 250 micrograms. The studies they did on the rats were like 50 to 100 times that.
Yeah.
Okay. And at those doses, there were no adverse side effects seen in these animals over the 12 or 16 week studies, which is pretty amazing, right? I do imagine that there is a dose where you can cause some mitochondrial damage, but I think if we were to go like 2.5 grams or higher, I don't think we would see those damages. I'm not saying that we should, because I think we're seeing plenty of results staying in the 500 to 1,000 micrograms per day dosing. But you know what I mean? What have you seen, Scott, with your clients?
I've seen nothing but results. I've seen nothing but really good benefits so far.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get to, and I found that because initially I thought he was a guy who had been running a healthy dose, and he said he didn't quote unquote feel anything from it. Once in a great while, I'll come across someone who's like, I don't really notice anything. Once in a great while, it's like, and so initially when I first started talking about it, I would occasionally see that on comments on YouTube or wherever else. And my first thought is like, well, I don't know where you're sourcing it, that kind of thing. But then these are people that are sourcing it from, I know where they're sourcing it from the I'll call them the affiliate of the podcast. And I've only seen good benefits for all the people that are using it. But occasionally there'll be like that one person. And then I noticed too, some people get a much stronger benefit than others. And like I said, I think for myself, I'm getting incredible, like I'll call it downright incredible response. I mean, I'm down 30 pounds now of fat. I'm getting into the best, literally I'm in the best shape that I've been in now since I had gotten sick. And you know where it's really interesting, Andrew, is that I'd get taken out, like go to the Arnold, be up for 4 days and all that interaction. I would kind of crash afterward in my appetite, mood, everything would go way down. My ability to train would be zero, and I'd have to rebuild that where I was doing really good right before the Arnold kind of thing. It took me 1 day to recoup the way I normally would, and now I'm back on my feet again, and then it's like I'm still doing great, man. So I'm seeing across the board really good results, but then some people like me, I'm seeing like exceptional out there crazy results.
Well, so just hearing that, the obvious answer to me on why you're seeing great results and maybe why someone who's taken it, they're not seeing anything, is the level of mitochondrial dysfunction they have.
That's what I'm thinking, man. That's what I'm wondering.
You can assume that you were pretty dysfunctional in terms of the mitochondrial and the efficiency there. Whereas like the person that asked the comment in the comments, the question in the comments, he's already losing 2 pounds a week on a very basic diet. So his body seems to be performing pretty well as it is. So I wouldn't necessarily expect it to do as much for him. He's already getting great results, which tells me that his body's already very efficient in the mitochondria, insulin sensitivity, all those key factors. So the level of dysfunction you have, I think it's only an upside to help you more and more and more.
Yeah. I got labs done
does that make sense?
this morning. I agree 100%. I got labs done this morning, so I'm excited to see what those look like. And I'm hoping that my hematocrit's down too, because I've been doing a lot of cardio. So we'll see.
Nice. Yeah.
Were you thinking something?
What do you think?
Yeah, it wasn't. It's fleeting. I had it while you were saying something, Scott, and then it just left my brain like an idiot. It just like an idiot.
You'll think of it in either 10 minutes or 10 minutes after we're done with the show. One of the two.
Right. Probably the latter.
I'll think of it tonight while I'm sleeping, while I'm in bed.
Yeah. Why, hello! I wanted to do something different with my True Nutrition advertisement for today. And here's the thing, I just got our order in. Victoria and I, we pay for all the protein that we get. They don't send us anything for free. And that's because I've believed in True Nutrition for 15 years now. I've been using them ever since I contest prep. They have some of the cleanest, best quality protein. A lot of times I use the Team Skip, but here's the deal. I'm going back to the Pure Whey Isolate. The Pure Whey Isolate, it just processes so fast. This is my favorite flavor, chocolate peanut butter cup. But if you want to try just like 1 pound at a time, you can do that. Just sample it. I've never had the cookie butter, so I'm going to try the cookie butter this week. We got a big old bag of pea protein isolate For the wife, this is what she likes to use. And here's the thing, they're just about wholesale prices at True Nutrition. Plus, they don't add the flavor in when they weigh it. So you get like legit 1 pound of protein, and then from there they add the flavor after that. So every 1 pound, I think it's like 1.2. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But hey, here's the thing, True Nutrition is a great quality protein. They believe in us. They advertise with us because I literally asked them to. And if you use our code THINK, you'll get some additional savings. Plus, of course, that's like voting for our podcast. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed my my impromptu ad. Goodbye. My buddy is having acne issues, and he wants to know if there is a difference between test E and test sip. He says he tried injecting daily injections and had zero difference. I told him to change the ester. It wouldn't make a difference with daily injections. What do you guys think? He's keeping his estrogen in check. He's had these issues both on cycle and on TRT.
I would actually look at gut health.
Yeah.
And I would look at, I would maybe even think about doing like some type of gut protocol, where you don't have to go all out and do like a GI map, because those are $400, and you got to crap in a bag and send it to somebody and wait 2 weeks to get the results. But there's some things you could do where you can use some general natural killers to kill off, the bad bacteria, the opportunist bacteria that might be overpopulating your gut. And then, you can reintroduce good bacteria with probiotics, prebiotic fiber, and then also work on gut mucosal health, with, glutamine, zinc L-carnosine, some other supplements. And so I would look at gut health first. I'm starting to really look more into that in regards to acne, because I think for a long time we've always been like, okay, look at the compounds, look at the dosing, how you're dosing it. And a lot of those people, they make those changes, they still see acne. Maybe it gets a little bit better, but it's still like a thing that's prevalent in their life. And so then I've started to do a lot more reading and research into, your immune system, and it all starts with your gut. So I'm not fully prepared to give a great answer there, but I think that looking at the gut first is where we need to go with that now.
I like that. I mean, hell, even if he's got like an egg allergy, for instance, but he's eating, now that he's bodybuilding, he's eating eggs all the time, something like that. Yeah. What do you got?
You guys ever developed a sensitivity to eggs?
Yes. Raw eggs.
I never have.
It's bad.
I had to raw eggs for some reason.
Yeah, I never have. The only thing I'd add is, coming back to the compounds, I just still think that if you're breaking out while your blood levels are increasing or decreasing, that's not uncommon. So if your blood levels have been stable and you're having acne or you're breaking out, then yeah, I can't disagree. It could be a gut issue. It's probably not related to the compound. It could be carrier. It could be something that's in that specific, but changing from enanthate to cypionate, it shouldn't. I mean, they're not even radically different esters. It shouldn't matter. I can't see how that would play into it.
Agreed. And too, and once he has acne, it's harder to get rid of acne than it is to keep it gone. So if he was on cycle and he had acne, and now he's off cycle, he's on TRT and he still has acne, it's an infection of the skin. So once that infection is there, if you're still, the irritant's still happening, it's harder to get rid of. So, I think that's a good move, Andrew. Like you said too, look internally. I found, and it's not something I'd say like across the board, this is the answer for everything, but I found like doxycycline for just 10 days has been enough to get a breakout under control, just to basically like put the fire out so that it doesn't continue to spread. And then after that, then it's like, now I can keep it under control once it's there.
So to that point, what is doxycycline?
Doxycycline is an antibiotic. So
bingo. That's what I'm getting at and what's it going to do? Mm-hmm. It's going to kill off a lot of bad gut bacteria.
Yeah,
so
I'm with you.
And I think where it comes from is the inflammation that arises from the dysbiosis of an imbalance in your bacteria. So, and I tend to not like to use antibiotics just because I look at them as like, they're like drone strikes, right? Like they'll kill the bad guy, but they're going to kill all the bystanders that are in that apartment building or on the street as well, all the good stuff. So I try to use like more natural antimicrobial stuff like mastic gum, oil of oregano, stuff like caprylic acid, stuff like that, is going to do roughly the same job without having the kill factor on the good stuff too.
I'm with you. If it is really bad though, I feel like there are points, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why I hesitated to even say it, because I don't want people to think like there's your go-to option, you know?
Yeah. 100%. No, I mean, in bad cases, you got to use antibiotics, right? Like we can't pretend that like natural stuff is going to completely cure everything, you know, in every single case. There's definitely cases where you got to use antibiotics. But the other thing also, we're talking about compounds, is, you know how you guys are familiar with like test flu, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like when your body senses that the testosterone or whatever compound you're putting in your body is a foreign invader causing an immune response, inflammation, etc. I'm just speculating here, but that could be related to this whole thing causing an immune response and then inflammation leading to this type of acne.
Sure.
Right? In the world, and the thing is, you could talk to acne experts and like they'll give you a lot of good stuff, but like when it comes down to it, they don't have a concrete example or a concrete reason for exactly why this happens. You know what I mean? It's an area that like the top dermatologists and scientists are still trying to figure out, because once they crack that code, I mean, that's a billion or $1 trillion industry, right? I mean, people with acne will do anything to get rid of it. Yeah. Like it's, you know, so yeah.
James had one for us. Does Winstrol dramatically lower estrogen? I'm thinking about using it in my next cycle. 500 test E per week, 500 EQ per week, and 50 Winstrol every day. I really just don't want to crash my E2 like I did on my previous cycle.
I don't think it's going to crash your E2. I've never seen that happen. Usually when people have crashed E2, it's when they're using Winstrol, but also added in a bunch of AIs. So I think, I don't think it's going to crush his E2.
And he'll know, right? Because like I imagine, let's say you're doing a 16-week cycle, you're probably not using that Winstrol the whole time, right? So where are you at it? Like, is the EQ crushing your E2 at that 1-to-1 ratio? Like, find that out, you know, at week 12 before you add it in, you know?
Yeah, good point.
I kind of feel like
you can always test.
Yeah. I feel like
Just
Winstrol is my new favorite underrated compound.
You can't change away from D-ball like that. You just said D-ball like 2 shows ago. You can't do it. No.
But I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of people don't use Winstrol. They're like,
is it safe to say that all of us are like parents, and it's really hard to pick your favorite kid because this one got good grades, so like you love him in the moment, and then this one's the star athlete, so you love her the next day, and this one is just a great person around the house, helping out, doing chores, right? It's kind of like we appreciate and love them all for what they give us, and it's hard to pick a favorite.
Depends on the day. I like that. I like that analogy.
All right. I think we got this one last episode. How long does it take to clear up scar tissue after you stopped injecting into that muscle group?
I don't know that it just does. Yeah, I think it just stays. I have golf balls in my quads that don't go away.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. I mean,
I think it gets
scar
better.
Tissue.
I think it gets better some. I had like the snap, crackle, pop in my glutes, and then I stopped doing mostly all injections for a few years, and then I went back and I was like, oh, geez, these are really pretty good now. They're like, I'm not getting the same.
If it's not that if there's not a lot of it, but I mean, they literally thought I had a tumor in each quad when I did the MRI, and I had to tell them like, that's really like, you don't see that might be upper outer quad in the same spot on both legs. I mean, God, come on now. Oh yeah. Like, he didn't respond that way, but he might as well have. I didn't think of that.
I think you're right to a degree. Like, scar tissue is scar tissue, you know? Can you break it up, guys? Can you break scar tissue up?
I think if it's minimal, I think you can. But it would have to be pretty minimal. And I've got scar tissue that's not going anywhere. It's just, I tell you what, it's so bad that I just want to put like a 20 gauge in it. And I've thought about it. Just suck out what's in there and see what's in there. I bet it's black. I bet it's black.
You guys want a story?
Let's hear a story.
I had a buddy.
Yeah,
dude,
what
I had
a story.
buddy who was like, so he's a candidate of someone that should not be using PEDs because he doesn't do a diet. He was one of my buddies, and he did a lot of rec drugs too, and had high blood pressure and caused a lot of stress in his life by having multiple girlfriends in different cities and, whatever. So he had a lot of stress. Anyway, he was using, I think, 100 mgs of injectable Tren in the shoulder every single day, and his shoulders just kept getting huge and bigger, but not in like, oh dude, you're blowing up, more in like a, dude, you got to get that looked at kind of way. So finally he had a major fever, major infection. He goes in, they pulled out 60 cc's of stuff between his two shoulders, and he sent me pictures. It was like this reddish jizz looking stuff that just didn't look like it belonged in his shoulders. Yeah, dude, it was bad. Like disgusting.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Was it like pus and stuff?
Yes, it was pus and it was oil and it was just probably parts of his muscle tissue. It
smelled really bad too.
Ugh.
He probably smelled anyway.
All right, I'm 45 and starting my cycle of testy at 250 a week and bolting on at 350 a week for 16 weeks. Is this safe? And is the dosage okay? Give me some feedback. By the way, the last cycle I did was 15 to 20 years ago.
Well, say goodbye to tell your wife too that there will be no sex for quite a while because your libido will be in the toilet within 3 weeks. So you won't want to have sex with your wife. Then your wife is going to wonder why, and then she's going to think that you've got a side piece at work, and it's just going to kind of spiral out of control right there. I don't know if I would go that route.
But you're going to look
I do
good.
marriage counseling on the side.
You're going to look good.
Counseling on the side.
But no, you will not die.
No. So
No, you're not going to die.
More test skip? Is that what you would say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like that ratio. I don't think you would be very happy with that about 4 weeks in.
What would be in that range, that dosing range, a more ideal ratio, in your opinion?
500 tests. I wouldn't even want it one-to-one at first. Yeah,
at least. Exactly. I'm saying at the very minimum 1-to-1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like 500, 300, 500, 250. I don't know. 750 tests, 300 EQ.
Well, okay.
I might try 400.
It sounds like he wants to keep it under like 600 milligrams total, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what the vibe we're getting? First cycle in 20 years. So I would even go so far as like 400 tests, 200 EQ.
And I could throw something just like an example of TRT. It's TRT plus. But I was 336 Cypionate a week. Don't ask about because there's an explanation for it. But 336 for the MIG for tests, and then it was about 120 for Primo. And it took me about 2 months before my wife was like, what the fuck, Ken? Like, because she calls me Ken. She doesn't
call you Skip.
She refuses to call me Skip. And I've tried to get her to, but she won't.
Team Skip.
So
call me Skip, baby.
But it took me a couple months and her to say something, and I was like, wow, I don't have. It's not like I wasn't interested, but I wasn't like typically interested. I'm trying to be careful here and be respectful and mature.
Yeah.
So I had to change that ratio. Even that 336 to 120 was just destroying it. It was not working. Drop that Primo, bam, back in business 2 weeks. I told you I would try to keep it respectful and mature, but
you did.
Sometimes it just doesn't last.
Andrew, question for the next episode from Miss Olympia, Missy Trescott. She says, when you had a senior weenie, I like the way she worded that. How much TRT did you give Brady? ? I think that was his name.
Yeah, I gave Brady and Oscar. Yeah, and I actually messaged her privately.
Okay, and was it helpful?
I gave Brady and Oscar. Oh yeah, 100%. Like it. I mean, did it make them teenagers again? No, but it like definitely put more pep in their step, especially my older one, Oscar, at the time when I started it. But it was, it's a very baby dose. It's 0.5 to 1.5 milligrams per kilogram. So on a 13-pound dog, we're talking like 4 to 6 milligrams of testosterone once a week, and people will ask, well, where do you get dog testosterone? It's like, no. Testosterone is testosterone. Almost all mammals have androgen receptors, and you can use regular testosterone. So I was using like a Test-E, but I went into, of course, to mess with her. I went to the AI generator, and I had it make a bottle of Dachshund testosterone. And it's these AI things are great, dude. I should have sent you guys a picture.
Yeah. Oh, that would be great, man.
I can send it to you right now, but and it's called. It came up with Dacosterone for Dachshund. Like I'll send it to you real quick. It's pretty funny, actually. If I can friggin' find it. Oh, here we go.
Holy crap! This guy went up 32 kilograms in 4 weeks. The real report from Norway. You're not allowed to use gear in Norway, from what I've heard. I think that's immediately you get sent to the clink.
Oh, is that right?
Is that?
I think it's one of those countries.
Is that the country where they can, like, if they see you walking down the street and you're big, the cops can stop you and detain you and bring you in?
Yeah,
or is it Denmark?
Okay. Sweden, Denmark, I think, gets like that. I think, wasn't it Sweden where somebody wasn't Cedric? Was it Cedric?
I think it was Cedric. I think it was Cedric. Yeah, got stopped and harassed for being a jacked guy.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I'll wait for that. For some reason, you know what? My computer is not linking things properly. I think that there are some issues on this. But
while you're doing that, I'll just say that it's difficult for people in the United States to understand when they complain about their rights if they haven't been to countries where, like in Denmark, apparently if they just want to come in and I understand that it's better now, but they could literally just come in. They don't need a search. They can just come into your house and look for whatever they need to look for. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, Real Report says in Norway, they can come and test you in the street. That's wild. So here's what he says, though. He went up from 84 kilograms to 117 kilograms, did not eat enough protein either. He says done one cycle, it was 8 years ago. I guess it's the only cycle he needed. Now he's like a super heavy. Went up 32 kilograms in 4 weeks. I want to go on one more cycle now, but will start working for a tech company in the next week. Will it be okay?
What does a tech company have to do with it?
Well, I think that Dave and I did a topic called like undercover cycles for people that don't want to get called out in their workplace or by their family members and stuff like that. So and then I got a lot of feedback. There are people that they want to put on some muscle, but they don't want to get too big. They want the effects you get from steroids, but they don't want to draw needless attention, So I wonder, man, if this guy even looks at some he did what he said. He took 300 milligrams of tren and 500 tests a week for that cycle and just blew up.
I would say he was eating enough protein.
Yeah.
If he went from 84 to 117, so here's what I would do if I were him in the workplace and when I'm out and about. I would wear long sleeve shirts, button up, right? And I would get one of those little, like a pouch suit to put underneath my stomach, in my stomach, to make it look like I have a little bit of a gut, like a little bit of chub. So I don't look as and it'll offset, his broadened shoulders and the musculature that he has up top. And it might, at least make him look like, oh, he's just a bigger fat guy, or just he's a little on the chubby side. He's not jacked.
Tell him you have a thyroid disorder, Yeah.
Why would I'll speak for myself. I would not pursue muscle mass or a bodybuilding physique if you couldn't get attention for it. If you just if you're not going to stand out or you can't stand out and be unique, then what good would that be? You can't compete. Obviously, they'll be like waiting at the auditorium for anybody who was going to compete. I mean, what do? You got to move. You got to get the hell out of that country.
Not everyone is attention seeking, Skip.
I understand.
Believe it or not, some people do
but
bodybuilding just for themselves.
Literally just for themselves.
At the same time, I think we can all say though that we like that look and we want to still be noticed for that look as a body. It may not be the prime motivator,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't want to walk around with like a gut thing under my shirt to try to hide that I was a bodybuilder. That would suck. I could just eat fucking French fries and burgers and look like that. And I don't have to go to the gym. I don't have to get injured, and I don't have to do all that.
Yeah, but when you got home and took your shirt off, you'd be like, "You fat fuck!" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't be happy with yourself.
You guys remember Turner Riddle? And Turner was like, I want to be, he's like, I want to be a freak. I want to walk in places and have people look at me and be like, that dude's there's something I get what you're saying, Skip.
I don't need that. I don't need
No. But in bodybuilding, there's various degrees of that.
Yeah,
I get that.
Well, okay, let's go back to a previous episode where we had your client Gus on. And you're like, man, you don't have a lot of video footage. You don't have a YouTube channel yet. And he's like, well, I kind of just do it for me. And I don't really like it when my friends videotape my set. I can relate to that. And I think he literally,
I agree.
I think he's just doing it for himself and his buddies. Like if he gets some props from his buddies when they're training, I think that's more than the world to him than someone on the street being like, oh my God, are you jacked? Like, let me see your arms, Yeah.
Stefan says, can't even take pics of your sick gym pump if you live in Norway,
Yeah, man, that is wrong.
That's weird. Let's have a country where we make everybody look exactly the same. Wow, that sounds totally normal. Not. God, come on now.
Man. All right.
And then I've heard that the country is actually really good to live in. So I've heard that too.
It's really pretty. I bet the air is really good and clean there. The water. You can probably drink water straight out of the creek. You know what I'm saying? In Norway, you're probably safe to do that. So we had this guy. He came on my Ask Me Anything live stream. So I have a little more insight than when he posted this question 6 days ago. He says, question for the next show. Has anyone ever heard of Masteron causing nosebleeds? I've been getting them daily for nearly 2 months now. The labs are fine. BP is fine. I'm using Test-Sip at 180 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mast E at 120 Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Drinking plenty of water, where I'm constantly peeing all day and night. My blood just doesn't seem to be responding to the mast.
What's his blood pressure?
His BP is fine, he said. BP is fine, and his labs are fine too. Yeah, me too.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a Masteron specific side effect. I mean, I think we've all been running compounds where maybe not your typical D-ball or Anadrol, and you've been had a nosebleed every now and then when you're on cycle. I can't.
Does he have a history of nosebleeds, or did he never have? The reason I ask is my wife had a situation where she had to have. It was horrific, and on a few occasions catastrophic. We were headed to Colorado one time. We were in the plains of Colorado. My wife had a nosebleed that would not stop. And I mean, it wouldn't stop. And she was coughing up like blood, like chunks of blood because she was bleeding so much that we finally, the kids got, just clot, like she was choking on it. And so we had to get her to the hospital there, and they packed both nostrils to her throat, sent us back home to go back up in elevation, which was like horrendously painful for her. Stayed that way for a week, went back, had them taken out, and had to cauterize the inside. Yeah. And since then, she's never had nosebleeds. But my point is this: he may have something going on where he has thin walls on the vessels, those vessels, blood vessels in his nose or something that he may not know about. But because my wife didn't have high blood pressure either, and I mean, they would just come out of nowhere and they would not stop. I'm with you. She was training and everything, but it wasn't specific. Like it had happened. It had been on and off for years.
Yeah. I'm wondering if maybe, because he's a bodybuilder, he's training, maybe, like you said, he had some, we'll call it deformity in the nasal cavity that and the hard training is rupturing blood vessels more frequently
I
than
wonder
the average person.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's master. Like I guess.
Yeah.
No, I don't see the connection.
Yeah.
All right.
So you might need to get the surgery. You might need to get the surgery your wife got done, the cauterization.
Yeah, maybe.
That's all we got, guys. It's another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear. Leave us comments and questions. I keep hitting this mic today for the next show. And go over to bodyberry.com. Reach out to Andrew there. Teamskip.com to reach out to Skip. mcnallydiets@gmail.com. You can email me there. And, of course, truenutrition.com. Use our code THINK. Supplementsource.ca for Canadians. And thank you to everybody from Patreon. We'll be gathering up your Patreon questions next time around. Be sure to go over to the Facebook group for Think Big Bodybuilding and post your hardcore set of the week. And, of course, use that hashtag hardcore set. Nobody else will have used it in the group, so we'll be able to pick that out easily. And guys, for another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, we will see you soon. Thanks, guys.